everyone, it's Nina. Thanks for joining me today for a new video, and we're going to be creating a card project inspired by the 2022 Color of the Year from Pantone, which is Very Peri. I'm really intrigued by this color because it has this like magical dance between blue and purple, and the in-between that Very Peri is literally a magical color. So I wanted to pair both purples and blues together in this project to really help magnify the gorgeous tone that this color can create. So to start off with, I have a stencil set on the left here for a slimline design from PinkFresh Studios. It's the Daisy stencil set. I also have a variety of inks from Simon Says Stamp and some embellishments that are all inspired by Very Peri. The first thing I wanted to do was mark the stencils from the PinkFresh Studio set. So each of these stencils help create a layer that eventually turns into an entire picture. I wanted to make sure that I color these exactly in the order that I want to. So I'm going to mark them as layers. So the layers that work on the flowers, I'm marking them as layer 1 and 2. Then for any of those that create the greenery, I'm going to mark those as well because there are 2 different layers for the greenery. So I'll mark one of them as the base layer and then the other one is the second layer. And then finally, there are a couple other pieces that create the centers of the flowers. So now that I have myself all organized, I'm ready to start ink blending. So I've pulled out 3 different shades of ink to start from Simon. One is steel blue, I've got also hydrangea and wisteria. I'm using Simon Says Stamp mini blending tools to really help me make sure I don't color the different sections of the flowers with the wrong color. I wanted to create a variety of color here between the blues and the purples to help create that Very Peri effect. So those small brushes are really great in helping me maintain control as I add my ink blending in the different sections for each flower. Now as I'm doing the ink blending for this layer, I'm not going super heavy with the ink because this is the base layer. The second layer is where I'll add some shading, but I'll use those exact same colors that we just used for the first layer. This time, however, we're going to add a little bit more ink for a heavier effect, and that's going to create the shadows, which is really nice. So again, I'll go back over those same sections with the same colors that I had already used for the color underneath. So right now I'm working with wisteria, then I'll move over to hydrangea, which is a bit more of a bluish purple. And then finally we'll go back in with steel again to create that really nice shading on those blue flowers. So we have all of the flowers finished other than adding the centers, but I'm not going to do those yet because I want to use some paste to create some nice detail for the center. So I'm going to save that for last so that way the paste can fully dry then while I'm working on the rest of my project. So we're going to put the green layer down next. I've got 2 shades of green for this too. I've got Laurel and Evergreen. These are really pretty colors. They go really nicely together, but they add just enough variation between these 2 greens that it creates some nice depth on my project. So I'm going to go in with those 2 colors, and again, not heavily. I want to create a nice base layer to start. We'll take off the first layer of the stencil and then bring in round 2 of the greenery and lay that over top. This is pretty easy to line up all of these stencils. They're pretty intuitive as far as how the design ends up finishing out. So you can see that creating this background really didn't take much time at all. It's created a beautiful frame which will really add a nice finishing touch to the sentiment that's going to go in the middle. So we did the darker coloring on top of those same greens with those same inks, and now we're ready to add the centers. So I'm going to line the centers up on top of my flowers and then put the stencil down into the tape that I have attached to the backside of my paper. Using some magnets for my Crafters magnetic platform from Tonic Studios, it's going to help hold my stencil and paper down in place even further as I work on adding the paste through the stencil. I'm going to use a Tim Holtz palette knife to carefully apply this paste through the centers. There's not a lot to add on this particular piece because there are just a few centers for all these flowers, but this is going to create such a gorgeous metallic glittery finish on top of our florals. And of course, this color from Brutus Monroe's Glitter Paste collection is also Periwinkle. So there's my beautiful frame all finished. We're going to let that dry, and then afterwards I brought in some hydrangea ink and a larger Simon Says stamp blending brush, and I'm very carefully and very lightly just going around the edges of my background. It's going to add a nice halo of purple, which will then look really nice when we've got some purple cardstock serving as the base for this card. So I'm going to now bring in some more embellishments. You saw some of these embellishment bottles that I had on my desk before we started this project. The first one I'm adding down is liquid pearls. This is a really pretty shade. I do have it linked below in the video description, as well as all the other products that I'm using today, so be sure to check that out if you're interested in knowing exactly which items I used and if you want to pick some up for your crafting. If you love purple, I think Very Peri is going to be one of those colors you're going to absolutely love creating with. So after I added the liquid pearls, then I brought in some Cosmic Shimmer. This is a pearl tint. So when this dries, this creates a gorgeous metallic holographic effect. It catches the light and creates different shades of purple when it catches that light. It's absolutely stunning. So I painted that onto certain areas of the flowers. Okay, so I have two sentiment sets here from Simon Says Stamp. One is XL Greetings and the other is So Talkative. I'm going to pair these two together to create a custom sentiment. I really wanted that large miss you coming in from the left-hand side of the card. So I'll stamp this with embossing ink onto some cornflower blue cardstock from Simon. This matched up really nice with the steel blue color. So I'll stamp that with the embossing ink and then emboss it with white embossing powder, also from Simon. Once I have this heat set, then I can use the coordinating dies to actually cut this sentiment out. My plan is that I want this sentiment to be on the left, and then one of the So Talkative sentiments is going to go on the right to complete the Miss You greeting. So right here I have the coordinating dies, which are super handy. I'm going to go ahead and tape that in place as I run it through my die cut machine. You can see that beautiful border it creates around the greeting, and that really looks nice. So now I have the smaller sentiment from the So Talkative set all prepped inside my MISTI here so that I can just stamp it down with some of that hydrangea ink. I did stamp it a couple times just to make sure I got a really nice dark impression. I wanted this to be a tad darker than the ink blending around the edges. So now that I've added that sentiment down on the right, the Miss You will tuck up really well along the left. I used some foam tape to attach the Miss You greeting. Okay, so at this point we are just finishing up adding some embellishments. Yes, I know, some more. I have these beautiful sequins from Simon Says Stamp. This is the Night Sky mix, and in this mix are a variety of blues and purples, and they look so good in combination with the colors that I've used here and really help create that beautiful periwinkle effect. So I have a card base here that I made from some purple cardstock I had in my stash. Any blue-violet colored cardstock would look great with this. I'm going to use some foam tape to pop that panel onto the card base, and then that's going to complete this slimline card. It really is simple, but all the little details we added on this card just make it shine. I love the bright purples and blues together and all those little embellishments, especially with the glitter paste as the center for the flowers, and that beautiful Cosmic Shimmer pearl tint on top of some of the other florals. And I feel like this really captures the magical dance that Periwinkle has between blue and purple. It's a super cool color. I absolutely am thrilled at the fact that this is the color of the year, and I'm really going to be having fun trying to incorporate more Periwinkle inspired projects into my crafting this year. I hope you were inspired by this project that was heavily inspired itself by the Pantone Color of the Year for 2022, which is Very Peri. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe and give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed. I will be back very soon with more inspiration for everyone, but until I see you all again, I hope everyone has a very wonderful day. Bye!